Quick show of hands, who is planning to multitask during this talk? Looking at you with the monitors. All right, I like the admission. It's impossible, and we're going to cover that, so I'm going to call you out when you actually need to pay attention and stop at your laptop. Cool? Cool. All right. Hi, my name is Joe. I am a Rails developer. I speak at conferences, and I help companies set up apprenticeships, something with which 8th Flight obviously needs no help with, but it's been nice hanging out with all of you. And I have a problem. And the reason we're here is because I have a problem, because you were kind enough to show up. I do not get enough done, or I don't feel like I get enough done. I think that, a little higher volume? Yeah, I think that this year is, and I think that every year I've had, I've probably been able to say that. I have never had less work to do. And now I'm trying to run a business, I need to do my taxes, I need to invoice people, I need to chase them for invoices, and on top of that, I need to do my code work, I want to contribute to done, but I never have enough time to get them done. I feel really guilty. Whenever I'm spending time not working, I'm feeling about all the things that I'm not getting done, that are slipping through my fingers, the opportunities that are not happening. And meanwhile, the culture I get, I don't know if any of you read Entrepreneur. You shouldn't. It's a terrible magazine. But this, I just want to punch him in the face. Because, come on. He looks like he's having such an easy time. And we know this is a lie, right? Like, there's, nobody's walking that beautiful skinny tie like this all day long. This creates more pressure on me to be the one that gets everything done. You see these prolific developers put out 80 open source libraries a year. I'm not. And that's a problem. And again, as a developer, there's an extra problem. Because we're all supposed to be 10x developers. So now not only do I need to be good, I need to be better than you. Because the entire idea of a 10x developer is that I'm better than everyone else. I'm better than the other people. And so now it's not even good enough for me to be productive. I have to be more productive than everyone else. Now again, funny thing, this doesn't exist. There are no 10x developers. We can get into that. But the pressure exists regardless. And that's causing a problem. And I think that you have this problem too. And I don't think that you have this problem just because you showed up for a talk, which, thank you. I think that you have this problem because I looked it up and I did a bunch of research, and it's pretty scary how bad off most of us are. So we're going to get into some stats, not because I think you love statistics, but because I think that as technically minded people, you won't believe me if I just make a claim, and so I'm going to back everything up with references. So we'll start here. 25% of salary workers work 60 plus hours. That's incredible. If you put it down to 50 hours, you get 50%. Nearly half of us are working 50. Now, it's a little bit lower for hourly workers, but again, we're in an industry that tends to be salaried, tends to value that kind of time. And if you think about this, of course, are these 60 hours a week. Are you doing that Monday to Friday and then you really take Saturday off? No, of course you're not. You're checking your phone, you're checking your Slack, you're checking your email, you're doing your side projects, you're doing stuff all the time. It's a slow burn, all day long, all week long, all year long, right? And then on top of that, you're not taking vacation, statistically. More than half of Americans are taking a vacation. I haven't taken a vacation in a year. And when you go on vacation, of course, what do? You check your email, you check your Slack, you make sure that nothing burns down, right? How many people in this room have taken a vacation the last 12 months and done 0 work? This is about statistically average. I see 4 hands, 5 hands. It's about average. Well, that's pretty pitiful, right? So we're not taking vacation. A lot of this argument, right? Americans don't get enough vacation. Europeans have like 4 weeks of paid vacation. Do you know Americans forfeit about 25% of the vacation they're given? It really doesn't matter how much vacation you get if you don't take it. I hate this one. Which is a little bit funny because we're listening to a talk while we're eating, but that's all right. My personal axe to grind. About 2/3 of us either lunch at our desk, doing work, of course, or don't eat lunch at all because there's so much to do, just don't even bother eating. This kills me until I do it. And it leads to this. It's all week long, all year long, you do nothing but work. This is a Gallup poll. 13% of developers are engaged at work. That's stunning. That's an incredible number. 13 worldwide, 13% engaged. Almost twice that many are actively disengaged. That's not just disengaged, that's actively disengaged. Throw some fingers and walk out level of disengaged. Almost twice as many as who are engaged in their work. And so big surprise, right, that we're not getting enough stuff done. We're burning down over and over and over again. The worse it gets, the more we put into it, and it just makes the problem worse. This is a great quote. I love this. This book is, all the links are in the slides. I'll post everything. When demand exceeds capacity, we make expedient choices through the day. When you're treading water and only just barely, you're not strategizing how to get out of this. You're just trying not to drown. And that's where a lot of us are. And I will freely admit, as unpopular as it is to admit, that's me. This is where I am, on and off. So I am a child of the internet. So I figured, let's look this up. Pretty much solve everything, right? There's instructions for everything on the internet. Fuck this. It's 36,000 books on productivity. I can't get into that. So there's no way that's going to work. Interestingly, I looked at this, I decided I wanted to use this for this talk, and I wrote down the number, and I went back the next day to take a screenshot for use here. The number had gone up by 300 books. I know. So that's not going to happen. I'm honestly not great at reading books on time anyway, so I figured maybe we'll Google it, right? Google productivity tips. All of these things are all things from the top results for productivity tips from Google for me, all right? Some of the advice was not terrible. Some of the advice could have been a little better. This is Forbes, another holistic integrity. 5 minutes to be practiced at the times we have difficulty concentrating. So let's consider what they're saying here. If you are so burned out you cannot see straight, here's a way to just press your face to that grindstone a little bit harder. Squeeze the last couple bits out of that productivity. Great tip, Forbes. Inc.com. Hopefully it'll be better. It's not better. Evaluate any clubs, subscriptions of which you're a member. If you can't justify the time, drop out. All right. If you have more work to do, you still have friends and free time and hobbies, get rid of them. Now, to be fair, in the very short, it's plausible that that might work, but this is still terrible advice. Same list. It's no secret that the amount of time you have to get done, the more you can get done. So the context of this tip was great. It was wake up earlier, right? Now, I don't know about you. Maybe you're more responsible than I am. I am not going to bed earlier just because I'm planning to wake up, all right? It's just not going to happen. Which means that really what this tip is saying is don't sleep. So once I've gotten rid of all my hobbies on my sleeping, and I'm going to be a perfect productive. And then this was one of my favorites, lifehacks.org. You know it's going to be good. Identify your time thieves. I love this metaphor. I think this is a really great metaphor. Because it's not me. It's not that, it's not anything that I've done. It's just that something is stealing my time. It's taking it away from me, right? All I have to do is go and retrieve that time from my time thieves, and everything's going to be okay. I will be that. And this metaphor happens all the time, right? This is rescue time. This is a really common piece of software, right? And it's the same metaphor. Rescue your time. Your time has gotten away from you because you're on Facebook all day. Rescue it back. So this used to be on the front page of Rescue Time. I thought this was great. I wanted to point this out. They're like, why you should use our software. It'll set an alarm for if you've had more than on Facebook. I don't think that this was market research. I think somebody at Rescue Time has a serious problem, and they just leaked it to their homepage. And we're going to talk a little bit later about why this is like doubly tragic, that this is the way that they're spending too much of their time. But so early talk summary. If you want to become a 10x unicorn, rescue your time from the time thieves. All right. But this doesn't work, right? Or it hasn't worked yet. I'm not anticipating it's going to start working anytime soon. Because we're not good at being robots. This is what I like. I like work. Don't pay too much attention. I just made up the numbers. I like work. That I do. I do great things that I love to be engaged in. But there's more to my life than those things. I want to be able to spend that time with my family. I want to be able to spend that time with my friends. I want to be able to spend that time playing video games. But this is where I'm at. I can't do this for long. The more that you do this, the more you burn out. The more you burn out, the less capacity you have. I'm not going to take that last 1% for hopefully obvious reasons. But we can do better than that. We have the technology. So this is another Gallup survey. They surveyed top-performing teams, and they were looking for commonalities between those teams. Now, there's an interesting side note here. They tried to survey top-performing companies, and what they found is that there's no such thing. They actually found that you can have a top-performing team, but very few to no organizations are top-to-bottom productive. I thought that was neat. So the three things that they found as commonalities: people felt cared for by somebody at work, they got positive feedback in the last 7 days, somebody at work encourages their development. None of this is about time. None of this is about those distractions. What is this about? You all read the title of the talk. It's really good. Nobody? Come on. Energy, thank you. You get a prize. It's about energy. And so here's, all right, laptop people, time to pay attention. This is the content of my talk. This is the entire content. Is that right? Somebody remember? It's about right. That's never going to get any more. You will never have any more time than you have now. So the demands are going up. You're not going to get any better. But when you measure energy, energy is something I can control. Energy is something that I can work with. I can figure out how to have more energy, but only if that's what I'm measuring for. And so we start to see why these other tips about our time thieves are really, really destructive. When I say go drop out of your hobbies, sure, you've got more time, but are you going to be able to bring any kind of attention to the parts of your life that are work if you don't have the other parts of the life where you recover? So it's really destructive. This is where we want to be. When I've got this, to recover, that's when I can bring quality of energy to the work that I do. So let's look at how. So we've got three sections here. We're going to break it down into getting energy, spending it wisely, charging it better. My contention is that these are the things that you have better energy and more of it to bring to your work. Yeah. Some of these are things you've heard before. Interesting, and I'm calling some research as to precisely how good or bad they are. So, this is a tiny pig. I love tiny pigs. I know. I'm giving you a tiny pig because I have a list for you, and I'm just going to soften that blow with a tiny pig. So I have a list of things. It's the Exxon Valdez, 3 Mile Island, Bhopal disaster. The commonality between these things is that they all happen, and afterward, the exploration into the causes of them identified lack of sleep as one of the major causes of those disasters. You need sleep. You need sleep. And it's not just about how much sleep you're getting. It's about quality and quantity. Many of you, by show of hands, sleep next to your phone, within arm's reach. Me too. Which makes sense, right? Like, it's your alarm clock. Like, you know, we don't have the little beep beep thing here. You've got an alarm clock, and like it plays music for me. The problem is that it's also a productivity device, right? So it turns out 80% of 18 to 24-year-olds sleep on phones. And so what we do is, of course, we get into bed and we, probably screw around on email, screw around on Facebook, watch funny videos, finally fall asleep, right? And of course, what do you do when you wake up? What's the first thing you do? What's the first thing I do? Check your phone. So A, there's no boundaries, but B, this is interesting, there's a study here that says iPads, but realize the light literally from your device suppresses melatonin. Melatonin is the drug that makes you want to go to sleep. So when you sit productive. I'm not going to make you raise your hands here. I like to drink. It's a thing I find pleasure in. Turns out, who knew? It's not totally healthy. So alcohol shortens the time it takes to sleep. So good news, if you're going to play with your phone in bed, at least be wasted when you do it. They'll kind of balance each other out. Good news is it reduces REM sleep. And if you don't know what REM sleep is, it has an effect on concentration, motor, memory. That's a problem. So you fall asleep quickly, but it's crappy sleep. Next, exercise. I know. There's more tiny pigs to come. This is really only nominally about exercise, but it's really cute. So we could talk about the fact that if you don't exercise, you're going to die early. But that would actually be the wrong talk, so we're going to not talk about that. We could talk about the fact that if you have depression or anxiety, that in fact regular exercise will actually help you with your depression and anxiety. But this isn't that talk, so we won't go into that. What we will say is that for attention and focus, exercise has a very small amount of exercise, 10 to 40 minutes, is an immediate boost on concentration and memory. And this same study actually, when you go into it, the long-term effects actually compound. If you exercise regularly, you have more energy and more concentration. So if you are one of the many of us who maybe don't do a great job of getting out of your seat during the day, aren't taking care of ourselves, you are shortchanging yourself on energy. Food. We all have food here today. And it's actually healthy food. Good work. So for those of you who have food at your office, is it healthy food that you're eating? Maybe not so much. Same thing. This is a funny one because we are actually all highly educated white-collar workers in the richest country that's ever existed. And so food is an easily solvable problem that we've failed to solve. But this is, I think it was the WHO, researched it. And eating the right foods, here's one of the obvious ones. Eating the right foods gives you more energy. Red Bull gives you wings, but in the long term, it's not going to help you any. You're just stealing from your future self. So eating the right foods. And then stress. I tried to find a tiny pig, but it turns out they cannot be stressed. Humans, though, need stress. This is a funny one. I'm not going to tell you don't have stress because A, that would be stupid. But B, humans need stress. Stress is like a muscle. A moderate amount of stress your body to be able to cope. It learns to deal with that amount so that when you have these extraordinary situations, you know how to deal with it. The problem is when you have consistent, huge amounts of stress, just like a muscle, if you keep using it too much, it fails. Moderate stress, productive. Not so moderate stress. So now that you've got energy, let's talk about how to spend it. Have any of you heard the research? So the study goes, you put somebody in front of some cookies, you tell them not to eat the cookies, and then like 10 minutes later you ask them to solve an impossible problem. And the demonstration of this thing, it's a fairly popular experiment, and the demonstration was that if you tell somebody not to eat the cookies, they give up on the problem more easily. So they say, willpower is limited. So there's a woman named Carol Dweck. You should read and watch everything she's ever done. It's really cool. Same study, but before she did it, she told people it doesn't work that way. She literally just said, you're not going to experience any loss in willpower. And it turned out that it worked. So here's my free gift to you for showing up. You get unlimited willpower for the rest of your life. As long as you don't think that you lose willpower, you don't. That's cool. Laptop. Cool. Actually, surprising a lot of people paying attention. Multitasking. Does anyone think they're good at multitasking? Is anyone brave enough to put a hand up? It doesn't work. It really, really doesn't work. This research result on this, if you think you're good at multitasking, you are statistically worse at multitasking than people who think they're bad at it. That is great. So, multitasking, IQ drops. So they dropped about 15 IQ points, people, when they were asked to multitask. So that was similar to having stayed up all night or smoked weed. Now, they said it also took the average male participant from wherever they were to about the level of the average 8-year-old. Yeah, I know, right? Now, what they didn't say, I read the whole paper, they didn't put it in the conclusion. I'm really not sure why, but that means that if you stay up all night and then you multitask, you have the IQ of a stoned 8-year-old. I do not know why that didn't put in the conclusion, but I'm fairly sure of that result. So no multitasking. There's a great story. I love this story. It's about two Buddhist monks and two young monks meet in the road, and they start boasting, because apparently young Buddhist monks just like to boast. And one of them says, "My master is so powerful that he can walk over this river without even having a bridge. Walk on water." The other one says, "That's nothing. My master, when he chops wood, he chops wood. When he carries water, he carries water." I love that story. That's such a great story. You can be present for the things you do. You can concentrate on those things and be there, as opposed to trying to do things at once. And then one more. This is something that's echoed in my life a bunch of times. I will try to generalize this to you. I will say that there are things that I have not taken care of for a long time. I haven't changed the address on my driver's license in 2 years. I'm pretty sure that's illegal. There's health stuff, every kind of stuff. Everybody has things that get in their way, right? And it's not all the time, right? Like, I'm still driving on my probably illegal driver's license. But it compounds. Little things compound. When you don't fix things, that weight weighs you down. It's a pain in the ass to fix these things, but when you do, you get to spend the rest of your life with that thing done. That is a hell of a result. So spend it wisely. This is my main contention. This is the tragedy of the Facebook. Rest is not the same thing as idleness. Idleness is not the same thing as rest. Research says the brain has nodes. It's cool. It's like them. The brain is either actively processing input or it's not. And when it's not, there's this thing called default mode. Default mode is where your brain is able to recover. It's able to process prior events. So now, here's the problem. When you're using Facebook, you're not resting, you're just not working. And so the reason that there is no amount of Facebook that will ever get you productive, you will never be, all right, I'm done, it's time, let's go. That's not a thing, because you're not resting. So when I say that you should eat breakfast, or I say you should take a walk, or I say you should listen to music, what I mean is not you should listen to a podcast while you're read the news while you eat breakfast. Think back to the monk story. When you eat breakfast, eat breakfast. When you take a walk, take a walk. That's the small loop. There's also a big loop, very cyclical in the small and in the large. You need to alternate on the larger scale between doing work and not doing work. So when we talk about, 50, 60 hours a week, never take a vacation every day, every week, every year, what we're saying is essentially this. I can work 95% of the year for 60 hours a week with no breaks for 50 years. That's dumb. But that's what we're saying, isn't it? Except it doesn't sound like this. What it sounds like is I'm doing professional development. I'm working on my open source projects. I've got my passion projects. But this is what we're doing. You never, ever stop. And it doesn't work. My girlfriend is a consultant, like I am, and so she works at an office sometimes with one of her clients. And the folks who work at the office, so they show up every day. She shows up every once in a while. They say, "Oh, must be great. Every day is like Friday to you." She's like, "No, it's not like every day is Friday. Every day is Tuesday for me." It's just an infinite string of Tuesdays off into the horizon. And that's what I wanted, right? Like, that's what I thought I was trying to go for, is to be productive all the time, the most productive. I was going to do everything. But that doesn't work. What I need is this. I'm a human. I'm not a robot. You have to have those periods of rest. And so take some damn time off. Like off. Like turn your notifications off. Stop checking Slack off. Because ultimately you don't have a choice. Your body's going to do it for you, whether you want it or not. So now we know how to do those three things. Whose life is permanently changed? I was hoping for at least one. Yeah. So I know these things. I did this talk a couple months ago. I'm ashamed to report I have not totally reformed every facet of my life. I did the research myself. The reality is that we have a complicated, it's messy, jobs are messy. We need to figure out how we can do some of these things in an effective way. So step number one, it's okay. It's okay that you screw this up. It's okay that you stay out too late, had too much to drink. These things happen. It's all right to make a mistake and still get back on the bandwagon. It's not an all or nothing proposition. That's why I call it the half measures. Second, I gave you like 10 things to think about this talk. Do one of them. One will make a difference. Like I said, half measures. If the only thing you do, for me, the big one is when I am trying to do habit, at least of paying attention to that one. And I may not be very good at taking vacations, but at least I can remember to walk away from my computer when I'm not actually focusing. The next one, does anyone be? Form a habit. I know. It's easy to form a habit when you have none. You can't stop me. I'm the keynote speaker. So remember, when your demands exceed your resources, you do the expedient things. By default, the expedient thing is not to go out and get exercise. And the expedient thing is not to walk away from your computer. The expedient thing is to dump in more time. The way that you fight this is by making the default choice the healthy choice. So if any of you have worked out for a long time, you know that there's a point at which not working out feels worse than working out. You get to this point where you just feel gross if you don't get the exercise that you're accustomed to. That's the goal. If you eat good food for a long time, McDonald's tastes like shit. This is what we do. We build the habit. We build these virtuous cycles where we don't have to consciously make the decision to do right. Lastly, check in on yourself. The checklist is so underrated. I have a weekly to-do, and it literally just walks me through. It says, all right, well, last week you were totally unbalanced and you were eating like crap. Are you eating better this week? And this is a lot of power, because when you lose it, it's not usually this like one thing, I was doing great, and then you make these small concessions over and over and over again, and that ultimately is what eats your lunch. So by checking in on yourself, you can actually keep track of the things that you're doing well and poorly. Anybody who doesn't work in a team is pretty much set. You can go back to your phones. Those of you who work in a team, you know that there's a culture problem. The problem if you work in a team, you need to start dealing with it as a team, because it's very difficult to be the only one who's doing it the right way. You have to work with the team and understand what it is that you hold valuable. And so here's the good news, kind of good news. Everyone else is drowning too. Yay! We all want a lifeboat. The bad news is that it's hard to stick them sometimes. First, no heroes. This is one of the biggest things that I see at organizations, is this sort of complex project. I put in a number of 30-hour days, and then everything's great, and I get rewarded because what did I do? I saved the day. How great is that? No, it's toxic, right? You reward the behavior, of course you get more of that behavior. So you need to set the expectation that the way we do work here is sustainable and long-term. And Eighth actually is one of the companies that does this really, really well. Number two, no bullshit meetings. You're going to have meetings. I'm not going to tell you not to have meetings. But when you have them, schedule a meeting. If you know that you can't pay attention for 2 hours, don't have a 2-hour meeting. Same goes for code review. I've seen the tendency to schedule like a 2-hour code review. How productive are you in the latter hour of that? Not at all. Again, you're just sitting. So short meetings. If you can, it's beautiful out. Have a walking meeting. The walk building to the lake and to the lake. It's beautiful. Take a break for real breaks. Take a break as a team if you can. I don't know, is there a like ping pong table here? Do you do? There is a ping pong. It's such a symbol. You always know there's a ping pong table at a tech company. Ping pong table. That's fine. Normally I make fun of it because it's like such a terrible thing that everybody has. But like make use of the ping pong table if you're gonna have some time not thinking about work. The beauty of that is you can't concentrate on work if you're having a competitive ping pong game. And then go home, where it has do not disturb hours. It won't notify you outside of your actual work hours. When you leave the office, group to stop responding to things at the middle of the night. Set your work so that you don't have to be here in the middle of the night. And then, too much, just because it's basically all those things that I said before, those things. If you cannot change your whole team by fiat, you be in the middle of the night, your team will send emails in the middle of the night. If you're a leader of that, you're an asshole. Because that example that you set is the example that everybody follows, right? Don't do those things. And then finally, set boundaries. Understand that sometimes there's a teammate or an entire team or an entire company that really is just addicted to this heroism and all these things. In startups, we're actually given to this idea that if we just retire, set your own boundaries for that. Understand that you don't have to get caught up in that. And understand that there are some teams where you will not do your best work. So to recap, to measure is energy, not time. Figure out how to get the energy, take care of your body. Figure out how to spend the energy. Quit multitasking. Figure out how to recharge it better. Take a break. I don't think I'm going to turn into this unicorn because, like I said, unicorns don't fucking exist. But I do think that this is something I can do. And I think that this is more of a life worth living. That's it. Thank you. I think we have some time for questions. We do. And there's a plushy cube that you can chuck at people's heads. Does anyone have a question?
Is there anything in particular that made you want to do this talk or gave you the idea? Or...
Yeah, so I mean, it really is, it's a defensive move because I do have flagrant time management issues, but one of the things I prioritize in my own life is trying to do public speaking, so I figured if I gave a talk on it, I wouldn't have any choice but to actually look into it. It worked. Right back there. Ooh.
You said to note down Carol something?
Carol Dweck.
Dweck?
It's D-W-E-C-K, Dweck.
Yeah,
she's a psychologist, and she does a lot of these studies to debunk other studies. She's also the one, if you've ever heard of the growth mindset versus fixed mindset, this is a great one. Like, if you think you're never going to get smarter, it's true. If you think you will get smarter, it's true. She's the researcher that did that as well.
Okay.
Other questions? Kitchen table side. Question? No? All right. I will be around. I have stickers if you want them. I got them yesterday. Pretty stoked. Thanks so much for sitting and listening without looking at your phones and laptops.
All right, thanks for coming, everyone. So you can keep an eye on our meetup page for future events. Feel free to stick around for a bit and chat. And thank you again for coming, and thanks again, Joe, for speaking today.
There we go. Good job.